You know what's hard? Looking in the mirror and realizing you're not stuck because life is unfair, but because of the patterns you keep repeating. Your future self is begging you to pay attention, begging you to stop telling yourself next week, next month, next year. Because if you don't break that cycle now, you're going to wake up 10 years from today and wish you had. Your future self isn't asking you to be perfect. It's asking you to stop repeating the choices that are keeping you in the same place, because every small decision you make today is either building a prison or building a future. Think about that for a moment. How many times have you told yourself that tomorrow you'll change, tomorrow you'll stop wasting time, tomorrow you'll start the things you keep putting off? Tomorrow has been promised to yourself so many times that you've lost count, and yet every tomorrow looks exactly like today because the choices are the same. Patterns aren't always obvious when you're living them. They feel normal, they feel comfortable, they feel like just the way things are. But patterns are habits stitched into your days, and if those habits don't serve you, they become chains. Chains that you don't even notice until one day you look back and realize how tightly they've been wrapped around your future. Your future self is standing in front of you right now in your imagination, asking you one thing: don't build me a prison. Don't build me a life where I'm stuck because you refuse to break free of what was easy in the moment. Because every skipped opportunity, every excuse you let win, every shortcut you chose instead of effort lays another brick in the wall around your life. And the scariest part is that those bricks don't get built in one day. They get built slowly over weeks and months and years until you can't even see outside anymore. That's what happens when you let patterns control you instead of you controlling them. The truth is you don't have to be flawless. You don't have to never stumble. You don't have to suddenly reinvent yourself overnight. That's not what your future self is begging for. All your future self wants is for you to stop repeating the mistakes that you already know are holding you back. You know the ones. Staying up too late, scrolling endlessly, saying yes to people who drain you, saying no to opportunities because you're afraid. You know the conversations you avoid, the work you keep postponing, the promises you've broken to yourself so many times they barely hold weight anymore. None of these choices feel big in the moment, but add them up day after day, and they shape who you become. Every small choice is either breaking you out of the cycle or keeping you trapped inside it. When you hit snooze for the third time, it doesn't seem like much. When you push off starting that project for one more week, it doesn't feel like much. When you let fear talk you out of the hard conversation, it doesn't feel like much. But multiply that choice by 100 days, by 1,000 days, and suddenly you are no longer making choices. You are living inside a pattern that makes the choices for you. And your future self is stuck with the consequences. You won't care about the comfort you felt for 10 extra minutes of sleep. You won't care about the relief you got by avoiding the challenge. You won't care about how easy it was to distract yourself. You will care about the life you didn't build, the opportunities you didn't take, the potential you left behind because you kept doing the same thing over and over. Your future self is not begging you for perfection. It is begging you for interruption, to interrupt the cycle long enough to change direction. That interruption might look like finally getting up the first time the alarm rings. It might look like saying no to the easy distraction and yes to the uncomfortable discipline. It might look like stepping into the fear instead of away from it. It might look like leaving behind people who don't want to grow with you. It might look like making one small decision differently than you usually do and letting that choice ripple into the next one and the next one. Every prison is built one brick at a time, but so is every future. And you get to decide which one you're building. If you are repeating patterns that you know keep you stuck, then with every repetition, you're stacking brick after brick into a wall you'll have to face later. But if you interrupt the pattern, if you choose differently even once, you start building something else. You start creating a pathway instead of a prison. You start carving out a future where you don't have to apologize to yourself for wasting years in the same loops. You already know what it feels like to stay the same. You already know what it feels like to keep repeating yourself, to stay small, to stay safe, to stay in cycles that don't make you proud. That feeling you carry right now, the frustration, the guilt, the disappointment, it is your future self trying to get your attention. That voice inside you that whispers that you're meant for more is not lying to you. It's the echo of the person you could become if you broke the pattern. Breaking a pattern doesn't mean you'll never feel tempted again. It doesn't mean you won't stumble. It doesn't mean the old habits won't try to pull you back. It means you stop letting those old habits win every single time. It means you create space between the urge and the action. It means you pause long enough to ask, is this choice building me a prison or is it building me a future? That simple question can change everything, because once you start to see your choices through that lens, the patterns that once felt invisible start to reveal themselves. And when you can see them, you can break them. Your future self is begging you because it knows how heavy regret feels. Regret is the weight of 10 years of choices you didn't change. Regret is the sound of a voice inside you saying, it didn't have to be this way. Regret is realizing you were the one who built the walls that kept you trapped. But the good news is that the opposite is also true. Pride, fulfillment, growth. Those are the rewards of breaking the pattern. That's the voice of your future self saying, thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for being brave enough to stop doing what was easy. Thank you for building us a life worth living. Every small decision you make today is either building a prison or building a future. That's not just a phrase. It's the reality of how patterns shape us. You don't need perfection. You don't need to win every battle. You just need to stop handing your future away to the same choices that have been stealing it from you. Breaking a pattern won't feel comfortable, but neither will regret. And the voice of your future self is louder than your excuses if you're willing to listen. Discomfort is the first sign you're moving in the right direction, but most people mistake it for danger. We convince ourselves that if it doesn't feel easy, then it must not be right, when in reality growth and comfort cannot live in the same place. The patterns you've been repeating are comfortable because your mind has rehearsed them so many times they feel safe, even when they're hurting you. And when you try to step out of them, your brain resists, your body resists, and the excuses show up louder than ever. Excuses like you don't have time, you're too tired, you're not ready, you'll start tomorrow. Excuses sound logical, they sound protective, but they're really just defense mechanisms for staying in the same loop. Regret is another kind of discomfort, but it comes later when the moment is already gone. Regret is realizing you let your comfort zone rob you of opportunities you can't get back. It's wishing you had been brave when you had the chance, wishing you had started sooner, wishing you had listened to that voice inside you that was urging you to push through instead of giving in. And regret doesn't just fade away. It lingers. It shows up when you see someone else living the life you wanted. It shows up when you recognize that the only reason you don't have what you wanted is because you kept choosing the easier option. Regret is heavier than discomfort, but it's sneaky because it doesn't weigh on you right now. It waits until it's too late to change the past. That's why your future self is begging you to trade the short-term discomfort of breaking the pattern for the long-term freedom of not carrying regret. The excuses you tell yourself every day have a rhythm to them. They show up right when you think about making a change. You hear that little whisper saying you'll fail, that you can't, that you're not ready, that it's too late, that it's too hard. And if you let that voice control you, you don't even notice that it's not your true self speaking. It's the voice of your fear. It's the voice of the pattern itself, trying to survive, trying to convince you to protect it. But your future self has a voice too, and it's louder if you choose to hear it. That voice doesn't come with excuses, it comes with truth. It tells you to stop lying to yourself about tomorrow. It tells you that your potential is worth more than your fear. It tells you that if you're uncomfortable, you're closer than you've ever been to becoming who you're supposed to be. That voice won't sugarcoat things, but it will guide you if you're willing to listen. Listening to the voice of your future self means you have to get quiet enough to hear it. When the excuses start pouring in, when your old habits start pulling you back, you have to pause and ask, which voice am I going to follow right now? Am I going to follow the one that keeps me safe but stuck, or the one that asks me to risk discomfort but promises me freedom? You can't hear both clearly at the same time. You have to choose. And the choice is not between easy and hard. It's between temporary pain and permanent pain. Because breaking a pattern hurts in the moment, but regret hurts forever. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're practicing regret. You're rehearsing it. You're planting seeds that will bloom later into disappointment. And every time you choose discomfort, every time you silence your excuses, you're practicing freedom. You're building resilience. You're planting seeds that will bloom into confidence, pride, and fulfillment. You won't always see the results right away, but you will feel the difference. When you choose discomfort, you feel alive, you feel stretched, you feel scared but in motion. And when you choose excuses, you feel stuck, you feel numb, you feel like you're watching your life pass by without stepping into it. Patterns don't break themselves. They wait for you to break them, and breaking them means you have to decide that discomfort is worth it. It means you stop pretending that the price of regret is cheaper than the price of effort. It means you stop letting your excuses talk louder than the truth. Because excuses sound convincing, but deep down you know they're lies. You know you're capable of more. You know you're holding yourself back. You know you've been carrying the same story in your head for years. The story that you'll change when it's the right time, the story that you'll start when you feel ready, the story that your circumstances need to be perfect before you can step up. That story is the reason you're stuck. Your future self doesn't want that story. It wants action. It wants you to stop repeating the same chapters and finally write something different. The truth is the moment you decide to break a pattern, the excuses won't disappear. They'll get louder. Because change is a threat to them. They'll fight back with everything they've got because the pattern is comfortable. The pattern is familiar. The pattern feels safe. But if you push through long enough, if you keep choosing discomfort over excuses, the volume starts to shift. The voice of your future self grows stronger, the voice of your excuses grows weaker, and the pattern that once felt unbreakable begins to crack. And that crack is all you need because light gets through cracks and light shows you the way forward. Discomfort is temporary. Regret is permanent. Excuses are temporary. Potential is permanent. That's the trade you're making every time you decide which voice to listen to. Most people let the temporary win, and they live with the permanent weight of regret. The few who choose discomfort, who lean into it, who let themselves feel the awkwardness and the fear and the uncertainty, they end up with the permanent rewards of growth and fulfillment. The question is not whether you'll feel pain. The question is which pain you're willing to carry. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The pain of excuses or the pain of growth. One lasts for minutes, the other lasts for years. Your future self is begging you to understand this trade, begging you to see past the illusion of comfort, begging you to stop lying to yourself with excuses that feel safe, begging you to accept the short-term discomfort so that you don't have to live with the long-term regret. That voice is always there, even when it's quiet, even when you've ignored it, even when you've buried it under patterns and distractions. And every time you choose differently, every time you silence the excuses, every time you step into discomfort, that voice gets louder. Louder than your fear, louder than your doubt, louder than your excuses. And when that voice becomes the loudest one in the room, that's when you know you've finally broken the pattern.